How you doing, everybody? It's Wardy here, and we have some Mets signing news to get into that has dropped over the past couple hours, originally from Tim Healy of Newsday, stating the following, that yes, the Mets have signed veteran right-hander Jose Ureña. Remember Jose, everybody, during his time with the Miami Marlins, especially in the late 2010s, against the Mets among other teams in the National League East? Yes, that same Jose Ureña is who David Stearns and the Mets brought in. This was a sneaky and savvy pickup, and we're going to break down why exactly that was. How are the Mets going to utilize someone like Jose this year? Because yes, he's absolutely going to be impacting the team right away. That and so much more is what we're going to get into, folks. So let me see your initial reactions down below. Smash that like and subscribe on as you first chime in. And shout out to our amazing sponsor at BetUS, which has you covered with all of your sports betting needs. Simply head over to betus.com.pa today and use Wardy's promo code YouTube150. That way you two get a 150% bonus on your first deposit, $125 on your second and your third, up to $2,000 for whatever you guys want to bet on, and bet responsibly there as always with BetUS. But now let's get into this one with the Jose Ureña news originally dropped from Tim, as we mentioned. And this is a fascinating pickup for the Mets here because we know they need innings eaters. We know the Mets need to make a move, especially after losing not only Frankie Montas, but also most recently Sean Manaea, the Samoan Southpaw. Well, now the Mets just added a man who posted an over 100 innings last year with the Texas Rangers, a 3.8 flat ERA. The expected numbers aren't as pretty, obviously, with a 4.43 expected ERA, and the K to walk ratio is nothing to be gloating about, but that's not what you're getting in Jose Ureña. He is a ground ball merchant machine. That's exactly what you're getting. And Ureña, especially in a true reliever setting, because this is a man that's been both a starter and a reliever the past couple years. He is a true swingman type is what the Mets got here in Ureña, but not only is he someone that can come out and be a starter for you for a number of innings, but in a reliever role for the Texas Rangers this past season, that is really where he blossomed, posting a just under 3 ERA across 64 and 2/3 innings. So Ureña, who was in the 84th percentile in all Major League Baseball and ground ball percentage this past year, and in the 80th percentile in average velocity on his sinker, which sits 96 plus. He's a flamethrower that induces a lot of ground ball outs, and he's a heavy sinker and slider guy, the exact David Stearns MO. Clay Holmes was actually just sitting down with the official Mets podcast yesterday in an interview and breaking down more about his game, how he especially is more of a pronator type, where he loves, especially when we look at those sinkers, those slider types. That's been more of the MO with David Stearns and the Mets pitching lab since he landed here over the past year. That's why a lot of Mets pitchers have deferred from going away from more of their four-seam fastball, heavy sinker usage, and heavy slider, sweeper, or at times splitty usage as well. Ureña already has a makeup that's appealing for a Mets team that have been wanting an innings eater, and what they get in someone like him, yes, is not the other Jose and Jose Quintana, but this does help lessen the blow for the current problems that they've been having. Ureña can be utilized in a true swingman situation here, where if they need him to, again, eat some innings as a starter, maybe to begin the season for, say, 3-4 innings, or come in as a multi-inning reliever where he had a lot of great success for the Rangers this past year, he will certainly be utilized in various situations that the Mets are going to get great looks on him in the early goings of spring training. But the reason why I'm so fascinated with this move that David Stearns made is because you landed him on a minor league deal when he absolutely has all the makings of being at least a solid piece for you, up until maybe you have to make the tough decision of, okay, do I need to DFA this guy by the time we say get to May or June because you don't have roster space for him with everyone coming back healthy? That is a great problem to have if you're David Stearns and the Mets, and that's the continued philosophy that they have had with their bullpen approach especially. They know they want a rotating door there. They know that guys will inevitably get injured. They know that they need guys with minor league options as well, something that Jose doesn't have. So for them to go out of their way to sign him is clearly telling that they know that he's going to impact this team more than likely right away. I mean, what we saw him do with the Texas Rangers last year was impressive. When you look at his other numbers through Baseball Savant, they aren't as, favoring towards him, but that's okay. Again, what you're getting someone like him is really as prototypical as you could expect with the sinker that's going to be sitting 96 to touching it, not necessarily triple digits, but sitting 95, 96, 97, 98. He's got the gas for sure, as well as the ground ball mentality. So when you look at his usage for the Mets now, when you have the current rotation depth sitting in no particular order, right? If Kodai Senga, we have David Pearson, Clay Holmes, and then already you're looking at the Griffin Cannings, the Tyler McGills, the Paul Blackburns. By bringing a guy like Ureña, it helps bring more depth in the organization, as well as another swingman type to kind of pair with the Justin Hagemans and the Max Kranicks. But the difference between Hageman, who the Mets acquired this past offseason, and Max Kranick, who's been in the organization over the past year, is that Ureña has a lot more MLB experience between the three of them and has a lot more success at the major league level. I mean, the fact that the Mets got him at this this small of a deal, mind you, when the Mets have to do the 110% tax, is telling. Because if the Mets bring in a guy like someone like Jose Quintana, who I'm still not opposed to happening, I would like it to still happen, absolutely. It feels like that route only makes most sense, in my humble opinion, is if they maybe go the deferred route because of how much the Mets don't love the idea of signing a guy at 110% tax for potentially a guy that will not be with them, impacting them positively throughout the entire course of the season. I think that level of risk is what's really had the Mets not pouncing on Quintana, at least publicly to this point yet. And while Jose is still pending a sign with a team that we saw from a couple days ago as he dropped out of playing for Team Colombia there in the qualifiers for the WBC 2026 tournament, it is a really interesting one to see that the Mets now went with Jose Ureña, knowing that it's a night and day difference on the cost. Because if, say, you brought in someone Quintana at a value of $8 to $9 million on a one-year deal at 110% tax, it's over $20 million for Jose Quintana that you had no interest in bringing in up until now, both Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas going down with injury. So while I like Hugh and would love him to return, if it isn't going to happen, this is one of the reasons as to why exactly it isn't. It's because the Mets brought in a swingman that has more MLB experience than their other swingman options right now, and honestly might be a more formidable option for them at times out of the bullpen than some of the other guys that we just talked about. I know that they have a lot of optimism with a guy like Griffin Canning to move away from his four-seam fastball that we broke down in yesterday's video to get the best out of him as a true back-end starter. With Paul Blackburn, he looked very sharp in his one inning of work yesterday, 3 up, 3 down on 7 pitches. Tyler McGill, obviously, we're looking forward to seeing how he's going to perform this spring training. A very big year for him, too. But when we look at the entire makeup of the rotation and the bullpen, this is another Swiss Army knife piece and a guy that has so much velocity that I really think added in this Mets pitching lab with not only what they have there in Jeremy Hefner, but Desi Druskull, who Clay Holmes spoke glowingly about in his interview with the Mets official podcast a day ago. Again, highly important you guys to check it out. It was a great breakdown. And he went on to further break down all the little things that Desi does and make a great difference for us pitchers, especially on the newfound information, and really articulate it well and break it down to say, hey, if you work on this, there is a greater reality, you know, that you are going to be in position to succeed the way that you maybe aren't at the moment. Let's make these little tweaks and we'll see how they do, especially with real-time in-game information that he's getting either from the spring training games, the one they're in their lab doing BP, among other things. Desi has been a great help to everyone in the Mets pitching staff thus far, and now Jose Ureña is the latest pitcher that Desi, Jeremy, Eric Yagers, and everyone else in that true lab are going to have the luxury of working with. So Mets fans, I definitely want to know your initial reactions to them acquiring Jose Ureña here that we see on a one-year minor league deal. And my final takeaway to share with each and every one of you, my biggest highlight about this, which really stands out most, is that this is a move that the Mets made that absolutely fits the immediate need of needing an innings eater. At bare minimum, the Mets needed to bring in a guy that can comfortably give them a solid amount of innings eaten, at least to begin as we get into April and potentially into May. If Ureña provides not only his ability on the starting pitching front, but maybe more so on the reliever front, where he really looked dominant at times with the Texas Rangers last year, that could be a nice Swiss Army knife weapon that the Mets have now that they maybe otherwise didn't think too much when they initially signed him. Like the structure on how things are going to go with him throughout the course of the season could be ever so changing. And Ureña has been in the swingman role for the past 3-4+ years now at absolute minimum. I remember when he was with the Rockies getting that swingman role. I've seen him with the Texas Rangers this past season, obviously. He's bounced around all over the place past couple of years, but he's had a level of success, and now that velocity, that sinker, that slider, truly exactly what has been the Mets' MO when looking at relievers especially. They've heavily deviated away from those four seams among others, and they love the triple S's, as I love to call them, whether it's a sinker, slider, sweeper, sinker, slider, splitty, whatever it's going to be. If it starts with an S, it's probably a successful pitch that the Mets have in the lab with these guys, and that tends to be the case now with the latest here on Jose Ureña. So folks, thank you so much again for watching. Be on the lookout as we will have either a live show and or video, or maybe just a video that drops later today as we get into all the key takeaways from the Mets' latest Port St. Lucie game in which Clay Holmes is towing the rubber. We're going to see some other key relievers in there, and guys like Jesse Winker, Jose Siri, I believe Francisco Alvarez, among some others, are in the lineup today. Tomorrow, the game will in fact be televised, so be on the lookout for that one. And Brandon Sproat will be towing the rubber, and yes, it will be broadcasted by SNY. Really looking forward to getting into that post game tomorrow when the time presents itself. So thank you guys again. Let's go Mets, baby, and let's see what's next for the team in Queens. Peace out, everybody.